Hey everybody, how's it going? Martha and Joe here. We're just trying to figure out the best camera to use, and I think we found it. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over here, and we're good to go. So, trying to make the temperature normal up here in this place. And Jesus keeps appearing to me with handcuffs on, and I want to make sure it's the real Jesus and not some fake.
Well, let's just say a prayer.
Well, I'll let you say the prayer. Oh, we're live.
Oh, we're live?
We just went live on, we've got 6 people. Hi, guys. Why don't you just go ahead and chime in here where you're watching from, if you want, what your Chinese astrology sign is. I love knowing people's astrology signs. Hey, Jacinto, we've got the Down Under down here. Make sure that this stream is working on Facebook. So I'm going to let my dad say a prayer right now because he's better at it than me. And then see if the Jesus with the handcuffs stays here because it's a little creepy, actually. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, God, for bringing us together to bring hopefully some wisdom to others, whether it's through our own knowledge or what you want to give us, but more likely it's because of what you're going to give us. So be with us right now. Protect us from everything dark. Protect us from everything evil. Protect everyone who's going to watch or is watching this at this time. We seek your words. We seek your guidance. And all we need is your protection. So envision a big snow globe around this room right now. And that is your essence. That is your aura of Christ. Fit us inside that bubble. Now fill us with the Holy Spirit. Fill the circle and just cut off everything dark. Blow away all the dark snowflakes inside our snow globe. Clear the muck from our feet. Let us be grounded in your love and your care. And with your Holy Spirit, fill us with your light and fill us with your truth and your wisdom. We trust in you and we wish always the best for everyone that listens to our words, because we know our words are not our words, they're your words. So not our will be done, but your will be done. And in your name we always pray. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'm a Christian, so I get to do a Christian prayer. So
And Jesus with handcuffs is still standing there.
he's still here?
Mm-hmm. So you guys can hear us okay, right, Jacinta? We've got this microphone here. I'm assuming that you guys can hear us all right. It doesn't sound tinny or weird. I do have a fan running that maybe I'll turn that off for the time being.
Just turn it off. It's too noisy.
I just like the there. That probably sounds a lot better. There we go. Hey, Tina. Tina, I was working on you this morning.
Storm blowing through here.
It's funny when I see people energetically and then I see them online. I'm like, hey, I was working with you energetically earlier. Alrighty, so we have the chat from we're working off YouTube right now, not Facebook. And Papa asked what we should talk about today, and
I got so many things. I mean, so many things floating around.
Why don't you explain to them that book that you have there?
Well, I've got a couple books here, actually. One that I brought up in the last session we had, which was yesterday, is whoa. Oh, that must have been the candy, the chocolate that was on there. Anyway, I've been reading a book called Worlds in Collision. I just finished it yesterday, as a matter of fact, and it's written by it's written by Immanuel Velikovsky. Velikovsky was Einstein's friend, and his theory. He started this book in 1940, and finally wrote it in.
Einstein said not after he wrote that book.
What's that?
Einstein said not after he wrote that book. He took my theory and made it. He said made it dust. That's what Einstein just said.
I don't know.
Ooh, they got in a fight about the book.
They were friends.
Okay.
In fact, when Einstein was passing away, on his bedstand was Immanuel Velikovsky's book, Worlds in Collision.
Or is he saying his book made him dust? Did he go into such shock he died when he saw that Velikovsky was claiming what he had channeled?
Well, what he did was he didn't channel anything. He studied the works of countless worldwide works, whether they were Hindu books or Tao books or books from the Islamic Nords or from lores and folklore of North American Indians or even the Aztecs and the Toltecs in Mexico. So he footnotes them all. And so what he is suggesting in here is that in the Exodus, Mars became a comet. Or I'm sorry, Venus became a comet that got thrown out of or spit out of Jupiter. So he also goes into Homer and the Iliad and the Odyssey and the whole work. So anyway, his theory is that Venus came by the Earth, and in its tail, it created all kinds of problems. The Earth used to be 360-day years, and it got pulled a little bit out of its orbit and became a little bit elliptical to add 5 1/4 days to the year. It tilted the axis of the Earth.
Is that why we're tipped?
Yeah, the Earth was tipped. Yeah, and for all you people who think north is south and south is north, that actually happened. In old writings prior to the Exodus, the sun used to rise in the west and set in the east. And then when the Earth got tipped over, of course, the sun rose in the east and set in the west. So it messed everything up. It basically wiped out civilization on Earth. But there were survivors enough that lots of folklore and texts were written down. So anyway, this was something I thought we might get into because he references a lot from the prophets because initially the books of Exodus and Joshua take care of what happened about 3,500 years ago when Venus came by Earth, and then 800 years later, about 2,700 years ago, Venus was still in a huge elliptical orbit and kind of settled into where Venus's orbit is now, but it touched on Mars and pulled Mars out of its orbit, and now here comes Venus and Mars about 2,700 years ago. But they weren't as close to Earth as Venus was the first time it came by, but it was enough to tilt the axis some more, and so there was great conflagrations around the Earth 3,500 years ago, and then to a little lesser extent, again, 2,700 years ago. And 2,700 years ago is when all the prophets lived. So he quotes most of the prophets like Joel and Isaiah.
Who's it, Joel?
Amos, and oh my gosh, I can't even think of them all right now. But anyway, he pretty much quotes the Amos and Joel are the biggest ones, and Isaiah. But I've also read in other books that Isaiah is actually 2 different Isaiahs. One Isaiah about 3,500 years ago, and then another one 2,700 years ago. And that's something that maybe we can talk about when we get into when we actually channel the book of Isaiah, because it's kind of long, but it's really in 2 parts, and you can really tell that it's 2 different Isaiahs, but nobody in theology actually says it's 2 different Isaiahs. So anyway, that was something that we thought we might talk about a little bit, but I was also reading a little bit of the Urantia book, Urantia, and this is a channeled book, and no one really wants to take credit for it. We know how it got channeled. The name of the psychologist who taped the subject, the person who actually channeled this book,
You just keep talking.
Was back in the 1930s. And so most people think it's, what's his name? The Sleeping Prophet. What's his name? Oh, gosh. I can see it. It's like a spinning wheel. And just as I'm getting ready to say it, what's his name? Because
I walked out.
The Sleeping Prophet. What's
Edgar Cayce.
Ernest
Holmes, or no, not Ernest Holmes. Edgar Cayce.
And this is pretty cool because Urantia is the celestial term for Earth.
My phone called Jeff 4 times.
Oh my gosh.
While we were sitting here, he's like, "What?" He's like, "You called me 4 times." I'm like, "No, I didn't." We're sitting.
And you had called me also.
Yeah, I know. My phone's calling people.
Yeah. So anyway, we were kind of torn. I mean, we'll eventually get into this book.
The Urantia book's pretty cool because I know that my dad used to tell me stories when we first both got baptized, and I was in rehab. And I've actually had like a lady that I guess I was in rehab with in my Christian recovery home, and I'd tell her about all the stories my dad would be telling me about this Urantia book, about the souls and the creation of the super universes and the original 12 tribes of people and all these different things that I didn't understand. But I ran into a lady a few years back, and she goes, "Oh, you changed my life with that book." And I'm going, "What book?" And she said, "The Urantia book." And I said, "I was talking about that?" And I thought about it the other day. I used to tell people about all the stories you would tell me from it, but he liked it because it brought him to Christ, because it tells all about Jesus's life, his whole life. So a lot of our books are based on
I incorporate a little bit. I ask questions.
He incorporates in the Urantia book in the Bible for his questioning. So he'll be like, "Well, the Urantia book says this," and blah blah blah. Like they say, there are 7 Michaels, right?
No, there's over 30,000 Michaels, because there's over 30,000 universes.
Oh, gee, and there's a lot of Michaels.
There's 1 Michael per universe.
Oh, okay.
And
so the Michael that I channel is the Michael for our universe.
And then out of these 30-something thousand universes, there are 7 super universes that they fit within. Mm. And then there's Havona, which is paradise, which sits in a stationary in between. So anyways, it's
Havona, I just saw, is right here right on the top of our head. It's like this. Here's Havona, and then it goes whoop, down to the middle of your head, and it has like this little like spinning disc in there, and that is that's Havona incarnate. And then we go like out.
No, it's like I was reading in here this morning. They call spirit, the spirit of God, that is a gift that lives within us, a thought adjuster. So there's a lot of different terms I use here.
It's a spinning disc. That's what the tube of light that we talk about. This is really cool. Anyone who's my student, we talk about the tube of light. It looks like Havona in there is right there on your head, goes right down into like a stake in the middle of your head, and then it's like a elliptical thing that we drop down in there. And when we drop down through our skull, that's the void, and it voids our memory of being God. And now we're standing on this like thing that's in the middle of our head, and that's what's considered the Garden of Eden. And then we can choose to stay up here in our head, or we can choose to emotionally fall. And that's when we eat the fruit and we fall down to here, the Adam's apple. And that's when we start living life in duality. And you were talking about the spheres earlier. There's these 7 spheres in this book that he's reading. And they kept saying the 7th sphere is right here. And that's where we call the soul plane. So a lot of people are
circles.
7 circles. Yeah, it's not the chakras. It's the 7 levels of consciousness. And our throat is the 7th level of consciousness, which is where our soul is. And a lot of people have been having issues with their throats, with their voices, with if anyone here has been having throat issues, hit like a 1 or something like that, like scratchy voice, or like you kind of feel like you have the flu, but you don't really have the flu. Anything like that. Anyone experiencing stuff like that? Yes, I got a yes there. Yes, 1, 1, 1. Yeah, and that's because our consciousness is being forced up into the 7th circle, is what Jesus is showing me. And then we've got someone in front of us. What's an Iliad?
Well, I was talking about the Iliad. The Iliad was the Greek story of the conflagration that took place during the Exodus. You know, one was happening in Jerusalem, or in what is now considered Israel, Palestine. It was Palestine back then, but the Iliad was taking place in Greece. So one was in the Middle East, the other one was.
I keep seeing like Dora the Explorer's map, where they're like the map, the map, the map, the map, and it's like the Iliad, the Iliad. It's like a book jumping around here, but it's got somebody standing behind it, and I feel like it's Christ energy, but who's Homer wrote the Iliad?
Homer.
Yeah, I see.
Wrote the Iliad.
Homer is here then.
Oh, okay. Oh, God.
No.
So anyway, Marissa and I were talking. We're going, oh my gosh, we're going to do a little quick session. What are we going to do it on? I got a 2,000-page book with so much in it. And just for those, just to finish up my thought here, anybody who might be interested in looking at this book, I think you have to there is no Urantia. There's like a Urantia Society, but you don't join. It's just other people who have read the
They've
book.
got a cool website where they have it on you can audio.
You can audio it as well. I got this back in 1997 or 98, 96 or 97, somewhere in there. There used to be a television show on late at night called Strange Universe, and it would be like 3 20-minute segments, like 60 minutes. And they did this segment on the Urantia book. And I went, They finished it by saying, if you ever really want to know what took place in the Garden of Eden, you may want to read this book. And I went, oh, that sounds...
The Garden of Eden, they talk about the Garden of Eden in there? That's why they were just talking about the Garden of Eden in your head.
Yeah. It's they talk about the Garden.
We should let them finish talking then.
Well, everything is like parables. It's like not allegories. What's the other word I'm looking for?
Metaphor.
Metaphors.
But it's not a metaphor.
Mostly all metaphor. Like the apple in the Garden of Eden. Not to ruin the book for you if you're going to read it, but the Garden of Eden, the apple is a metaphor for sex, is what it was. And basically, what happened was Eve had sex with one of the created humans, so to speak, that were created by Lucifer. And so that's why we're all born with sin, because the first child born to the pure white of Adam and Eve ended up being out of sin. So it ended up being pure white with basically dark or black. And they came up with a bastard, and that bastard was Cain. And then Adam and Eve had Abel, and Abel was pure. But Cain had sin, and so Cain didn't like Abel, so he killed him. And then Adam and Eve put marks on him and sent him out, and put the mark on him and sent him out of the garden. But they put the mark on him to keep him from being killed by the Nephilim. And that's in the book of Genesis. You can read about that.
That's the mark of the beast.
And everybody goes, well, who the heck was Nephilim if there are only 2 humans, 3 humans, or 4 humans on the entire earth? Who was the Nephilim? So I think after I read the Bible, and then from cover to cover, then I read this book. And then I went back and I read the Bible again from cover to cover. And then I went back and I read this book again. So I think I've been very curious since about 1998. Prior to that, I was agnostic. I thought anybody believing in God was kind of stupid, that there really wasn't anything out there. But maybe just to be on the safe side, maybe I should believe in God. But that's like W.C. Fields. W.C. Fields was a noted atheist. And on his deathbed, a friend of his came in and noticed that he had a Bible on the side of his bed. And his friend said, hey, Bill, William C. Fields, Bill. And he said, hey, Bill, what the heck you got a Bible here on your table for? And he said, I'm keeping my options open.
Yeah.
And then he shortly passed away. So I was kind of there. I wasn't really sure of anything. But after reading this book and then going back and reading the Bible again, shortly after that, I was baptized with Marissa on her 21st birthday. And from that point on, I've been a Christian since 1998. So, but I'm still curious. I am still very curious. I know the Bible doesn't cover everything. It's a spiritual book, more than a historical book. But now I'm finding out, after reading Velikovsky, that actually the Bible is a very good historical book. And what people...
just perceived wrong.
Yeah, theologians have just read it wrong. They don't understand. And that's where Velikovsky comes in and says, okay, here's why they wrote what they wrote. Because everybody else who are theologians who read the Old Testament go, that's garbage. That's poetic. That's, they're like, that's not going to happen. And actually things really did happen. So anyway, someday we'll go into the Urantia book and we'll go into different sections of it. Just like we're reading the Bible right now. We've gotten through parts of, 10 chapters of Matthew that are on tape right now. There are other things like I want to read in the Old Testament, like Ezekiel and Jeremiah. Ezekiel was the one that saw UFOs and all of that stuff. So anyway, am I looking in the wrong place? Are they in that? Where's?
I don't know where they're.
I don't know where they're at.
They're there. Wait, hold on.
My apology if I'm looking down and I'm not looking.
They're right there.
at
They're right there.
As I speak.
You were reading anyway, so it's fine. So what they're saying is, so the guides are here. Jeremy is here. Remember Jeremy?
Yeah, he goes back to our first channeling session. So anyway, Marissa and I were talking about that, and one of the things that we have not put out for anybody to acquire, but maybe Marissa can work on that, is we have 3 sets of 21-day cards. So there's 63 cards, and they're cool. They're side 1, side 2, and 1 is like a how do I explain it? They're lessons. They're basically lessons. So I was going through these, but Marissa kept saying anger, anger. Jesus wanted to talk about anger.
Yeah, they want to talk. So
that's going to be the subject here, and so I'm going to turn it over to Jesus, and if you want
and Homer.
And Homer, I'm not sure what Homer can add to it, but
what
if
did
you
Homer?
want,
I mean, is he a good guy, bad guy? Is he? Jesus says
he was an author.
Jesus says he's one of me.
Could be. Could very well be. So anyway, so if Jesus is here right now, do we have the real Jesus here, or do we have a fake Jesus?
Jesus keeps showing himself in bondage. And he says when he's in bondage, everyone's in bondage. When everyone's in bondage, he's in bondage, because he is us and we are him. And right now the human race is in bondage due to anger. So we must discuss anger, we must cover anger, and we must eliminate anger now, or the human race will cease to exist in the way that it does right now. Just as you have said, the soul is created of God, and the body is created of the planet that you are living on. So let us just say that you're living on Saturn. You as a soul will go and merge with a being that lives on Saturn. Therefore, the God of that being is the God that created Saturn. The God of your soul is that which created your soul. So it is up to you to decide which you choose to put your awareness, put your consciousness into. For there is one that is eternal and there's one that is not eternal. However, there are many religions that are scaring people, angering people, upsetting people to the point where they are passing over, leaving their physical body, but they're not leaving. They're staying here because they think that the God that created them is the God that created the beings on earth, which is Earth, the morning star. Whoa.
Who created the morning? The morning star.
Hold on. Mine just got in. Hold on. The morning star.
There's a lot of questions about morning star and evening star.
Morning star is Earth.
Whether morning star is good or it's bad, and like
morning star is Earth. The morning star is a star that fell.
Well, according to Velikovsky, the morning star is Venus, and most of the world thought of Venus as Lucifer, whereas the Jews thought of the morning star as being a representative of God, because Venus actually saved them from bondage and killed everybody else. So everybody thought of the evening or the morning star, which is also the evening star, because it goes through what, a 27-day cycle of spinning. So half of it, or about a third of it, is on the western sky at night, and then a third of that time it's blocked, and then a third of the time it's on the eastern horizon in the morning.
The morning star is here. It says, the morning star is that which I am indeed. For as I carry forth the frequency, the rhythm, the rhyme of the music that enters into this reality, I bring forth the morning star frequency. For if you follow me back unto my creation, you enter into a black void, a black box, so to speak, of nothingness. For this is where you can find that the God particle was swallowed. For the God particle went into a void, so to speak, or into a black hole. And in that black hole is where this God particle hereby became the morning star. The morning star then hereby fell unto itself, creating a sun of itself. And in that sun of itself, it hereby created elliptical planets around it. When you can begin to see and know and realize that, a falling star becomes a sun and everything has consciousness in it, you can begin to see that the planet that you live on created the body that lives on it, the soul that lives on it. So many people will say that hell is inside the earth. It is because when people die, they go back to creation, to where they were created, and that is in the center of the planet in which they are from. What Christ is doing is Christ is entering in from beyond the black hole that the God particle that Christ created slipped into to create its own reality and make its own worlds. What Christ has done is Christ has brought Christ's full consciousness into and unto a reality whereby showing people that they are more intelligent than the God particle, that they made the God particle, that they are much, much more than the God particle. And let us explain the God particle. The God particle would be the awareness of that which is your true creation, your true creator. That is Christ. So Christ created many, 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 many beings. And one of those beings that was created, call it a Michael, if you will, went into a black hole. And in this black hole, there are endless possibilities. There are endless creations. There are endless realities, endless, infinite possibilities of creation. But what you must begin to realize and understand is that is 3D, that is third dimensional, or in your book that you were speaking of, that would be the first circle. So you're unable to connect with God while you're in a black hole of space. So what we are here to do is to pull everybody out of that void, out of that black hole that they have fallen into, or all the stories are created as to why they are who they are and what they are and where they are and why they're here, and bring them unto themselves, which is Christ. And as they can begin to morph into and begin to pull themselves into the them that is Christ, this is when they can begin to see the world around them the way that it truly is. Because the world is very confusing, because everybody has their own God particle. Everybody has created their own reality. Everybody has their own, they just keep showing this black box where like Christ created all these little souls and they all went, ooh, and they went into a black box where there was nothing. But then they just started thinking and they started creating. So if you look at it like this, you are a creation of the mind of God. And the mind of God thought up Christ. Christ then created, and upon those creations, the love that was Christ is the essence of what many would call the Holy Spirit. So combined together with love and together with the mind of God, you come together as a consciousness and an awareness. And then you are in a box, and whatever you think of, you create. So all of you have created the worlds that you live in. It is very abstract, but this is Homer talking.
Well, even
that's why it's confusing. I'm listening. I'm going, I'm totally confused. Homer says, well, if you call me in, you're going to get genius. You're just going to have to deal with genius ideas. So is this your theory, Homer? He says, yes. I said, and I just asked Abraham, is it right? And Abraham said, in his black box.
In his black box.
But Abraham says, let me just straighten this out. Abraham says, there is a God. There is a God that creates everything. And that God is not a being. That God is thought. That God is mind. That God is consciousness. So it is like the chicken and the egg. But consciousness came, consciousness thought, consciousness then spoke light, and then that light then projected like a movie screen, the consciousness like a movie, and then the original God hereby sparked awareness, or the Holy Spirit, to go live in each and every single movie that these consciousnesses created. But this is besides the point. What we want to get to is anger. Anger is in only one of the screens that is created. There are 7 screens. And you can choose to live in whichever screen you want to live in. You can choose to live in all 7 different realities, all the same exact thing happening, except look at it this way. You walk into a room and you say hello to somebody. One person's going to hear hello. The other person's going to hear hello. Another person's going to hear hello, but they're going to say fake bitch.
The 7 realities, are they referring to the 7 deadly sins?
7 deadly sins are the frequencies of each of these different, they are the antithesis of the frequencies of each of these screens.
Let me read the 7 deadly sins real quickly. Number 1, lust. Number 2, gluttony. Number 3, greed. Number 4, sloth. I love the sloth. I mean, I don't want to sloth.
From Zootopia.
From Zootopia.
That's the funniest scene.
Sloth. Number 5 is wrath, and that's where you bring in anger. Number 6 is envy. That can be anger as well. And 7 is pride, and that can be anger as well. There is no anger as one of the 7 deadly sins, but it's incorporated into at least 3 of them. So, which would be wrath, envy, and pride.
And that would be in essence the essence of the media. That would be in essence the essence of the news. Not to get into the nitty-gritty of what human beings are exposing themselves to, but would you, if you could, feel the emotions as a vision? If your emotions could be a vision to show to your child, would you show your emotions to your child? If somebody who is angry on television but is smiling actually look like a murderer or a rapist or a pedophile because of the thoughts that they have, if their thoughts were on the outside of them, would you transmit the news through your house? Would you transmit those frequencies through your house? So the key here is that there is an angering of society going on right now because of the shift that is about to happen. Many call it the event. Many call it, many used to talk about the apocalypse, or they would talk about the shifting of the planet or the end of the world. There is a huge shift coming. January 18th, another March 13th, and then another in September or October, depending on how the timelines come together. As these shift, everybody will have access to their soul. Everybody's brains will be able to pull from the fact that he may have killed this channel in a past life. She'll go, hey, you killed me. Hey, and shoot him back. So in this, there should be no fear that takes place. What should take place is the desire to spread compassion throughout the world, to spread compassion and to make people aware that anger, although it is much easier to feel angry than it is to feel sad, should not be the go-to emotion. 99% of the planet is angry. And they take out that anger by watching angry things on television, because then they go, oh, look, oh, see, that's why I'm so angry. So you have to look deep within and say, why do I want to feel angry? Why do I want to feel this? Where is it within, this is Jesus, where is it within me that needs to feel this anger? It may be a righteous injustice what beings are doing, but what control do you have over it other than to get angry and to hurt the children around you, to hurt the beings around you that can feel that anger? So we must band together. And there are people watching this today that may start campaigns of their own of bringing in some form of anti-anger campaign into their schools, teaching children how to have joy. You read the passage about joy not being able to be felt unless two beings come together. Anger.
Loneliness is your death.
Anger cannot be felt.
You need people in your life. You need communication. And you need social interaction. If you've divorced yourself from society and from people in general, you're on a downward path, because you're just going to fall into all 7 of those deadly sins without even really realizing it. But let me ask Jesus one thing. Can I? Or am I going to get in trouble for interrupting him again? because everybody gets mad at me because I always,
He says,
in
"You always
all my
interrupt me."
books, I always
He says,
interrupt
"What's new?"
Jesus and then I never get back to the original topic.
Mhm.
But this is on topic. Anger. It doesn't matter whether you are a Republican or a Democrat or an independent or a libertarian or whatever. Certain things that are going on around you right now will get you mad. It's just the way. What happened last year that the barbed wire came down, and now the classical music is coming in, and everybody that loved the rock and roll that was originally inside the barbed wire fence don't want to hear that classical music, and so they want to beat up on anybody who's being peaceful. And so it's just crazy. It's just very crazy.
That was in our John book.
So anyway, I had posted something on Facebook, and Marissa just totally freaked out and got back to me and said, "Papa, how could you do that? If you're a godly person and you love Christ, how can you get angry?"
No, I didn't say
at
that.
Somebody else?
Someone said that.
Oh, okay. Somebody told Marissa, and Marissa passed along to me, and I said, "Well, you know what? Anger might be one of the deadly sins, and it's wrapped into 3 different things. But you know what? Even Jesus got mad. And at least on 2 occasions that I'm aware of in the New Testament, one was when he got mad at the money changers who were ripping people off because during the Passover or whatever, everybody had to come into town during the Passover, and everybody had to kill a lamb and sacrifice the lamb. And so all the Pharisees and the Sadducees would be in the courtyard of the temple, and they'd be exchanging money because people were coming from all different parts of the world to Jerusalem. So anyway, Jesus felt that they were ripping him off, so he tipped over the tables, and it's in the book of Luke. So if it's true or not, we'll let Jesus talk about it. The other one was how prior to Jesus being taken away and crucified, the Pharisees would walk around in the town with their beautiful robes and just showing off like, look how great we are, look how godly we are. And Jesus called them vipers and snakes. So even Jesus lost his cool at least twice, maybe more, in the New Testament. So there's my question. Did you lose your temper? Or are these also metaphors as opposed to actual things that took place?
These are not metaphors. These are stories placed within this book to show in man's term, how someone who was supposedly perfect was to feel about certain types of people. For the stories told were to tell people not to be greedy, not to be vengeful, not to be all these things. And who better than to listen to than me if they're saying I'm the one that's getting upset. Yes, of course I got upset. I got upset about things that I felt that I could control, but I was not controlling them in the way that I could. For that is why people get angry. People only get angry when they feel as if they have some form of control over what is happening. People may get wrath, they may have any of these seven deadly sins as you have read, but really think back to a time when you knew that you were absolutely helpless in a situation. You were angry. You were angry. You may have been scared, but being angry is much, much more pleasant than being scared, because being scared is being powerless. Being scared is having a lack of faith. So when people get angry is because they feel as if they have some part or some role in something. So those of you who get upset about the politics, maybe that is where your calling is. Maybe your calling is in politics, or maybe it is in bringing balance to people who get over the top upset about things. Yes, I did get upset. I got very upset. I got upset at the world around me. I got upset at the world that I had created. I got upset that the world was not the way that I intended it to be. I got upset that people were killing people over who I was. This is God talking. Over who I was. So this is Christ? No. Whoa. Okay, so the person talking is 3 kings, and then it goes up into this big ball of light. So that big ball of light has 3 kings. Those 3 kings are pointed down at like baby Jesus, who's Christ, and then in front of that is Jesus. So this is a ball of God, I guess.
Wow.
So when one speaks of the Father, they speak of me, for I am the Father. I am the Father. I am not also the Mother. For the mother is the essence of everything. The mother is that which I create with, for I am the mind. I am the mind. She is the essence, the purity of creation. For you may call it the Holy Spirit, you may call it Spirit, you may call it whatever you may. You may call me whatever you may, Source, God, Creator, whatever. However, what I am stepping in to explain unto each of you today is looking at your life right now. Where do you get the angriest? And ask yourself, how do I change it? So you making your posts on Facebook, that is your way of, well, I have to change this. I have to change this. I have to change people's minds. But you know what? No one's mind will ever be changed, because it is not the mind of an adult that you're speaking to when it comes to politics. You are speaking to the child that was hurt. You're speaking to the person who was fired because of a certain law. You're speaking to the woman who was raped that needed to have an abortion. That was Catholic and felt horrible about it, but couldn't handle having the baby. That you're talking to a guilty woman who feels guilty, and that is who you're speaking to. So when we speak unto each and every single one of you, you have to ask yourself, when I'm angry, am I judging? If I'm judging, stop. If I'm not judging and I'm angry, why do I feel guilty? And when we get down to it, it is truly, truly the topic that we brought up when you and your ex-wife were together with this channel, when the three of you were discussing guilt. I was the one that brought this topic in. For everybody lives on the frequency of guilt on this planet, because just as you just said, you were all created of sin. You're all created of sin because she did this, and however the story works, someone was tricked. And because of that person being tricked, you were all created. And that is not true. That is not true, because you are not the creation. You are me and I am you. You are pure spirit. You are pure joy. You are pure love. You are purity. And what the world wants you to think is that you are the human. And what the world wants is for you to get angry, for you to get mad, for you to get hostile. I look upon the streets and I shed a tear when I see the children fighting children over political matters that they don't even understand. They pick it up at the dinner table listening to their parents. So they pledge their devotion to their parents, and then they fight with another. I shed a tear for this world that I've created when I see women rising up in peaceful walks, when it's not rising up in peace. It's rising up in thinking constantly about the time they were hurt, and thinking over and over and over and over and over, I could have done it another way. I should have done it another way. I should have stuck up for him. I should have done this. I should have done that. I should have. We need to wipe the slate clean. And yes, I have wiped the slate clean on this planet before. I have wiped the slate clean because I know that my children come back to me. Because you are all my children, the human beings, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, back to the earth where it came from. But you are me and I am you, and we are light. Living in these dense bodies that, as you said earlier, have full range, free will. The spirit cannot take over unless the brain says, okay, spirit, you get to take over. Okay, God, you get to take over. As I sit here today, I look upon the earth. I look upon each and every single one of you down there. Each and every single one of you have a counsel. Go to your counsel each day. Ask them, how can I have less anger in my life? Are you angry at your ex? Are you angry at your children? Are you angry at the injustice of the fact that you have a disabled child? Are you angry at the injustice and with that child not admitting that you're angry is even worse than pretending like, oh, it's just what God chose for me and it's just life. Sometimes you just have to be, why me? But But the mothers and the fathers of children that are disabled will not say that because they feel too selfish when they say this. But you can say, why me? You can ask, you can admit that you are angry. We want individuals to purge the anger. We want to send out a frequency now. And we want for this channel and for you to create a guilt wash and an anger wash video that you can set out into the internet, where people, all they have to do is listen to a song. And as they listen to that song, they will be released of the anger and the guilt that is not their own. You carried guilt for your father who went out on your mother because they told you. You felt guilty because you had his name. You carried his guilt because you were the only one that knew. You felt guilty for being the only one that knew. That guilt then turns into attracting towards other people who feel guilty, or feeling as if you need to help others so that you don't feel guilty. This channel feels guilty about everything. Anyone watching here, if you say that you don't feel guilty, you're lying. You are lying. You feel guilty about everything. If you want to be cleared of the guilt, the surface guilt, at least right now, hit 1 and we will instantly send through the frequencies of this video, whether it's now or later, send through a wash of that guilt. Because when this world can feel less guilt, there will be less anger. The two go hand in hand. When someone is not guilty, and this is why this channel is seeing Jesus in bondage, because we are showing guilt. For he was not angry because he knew he was not guilty. Does this make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So when one is not guilty of something, but you all will convince yourselves that you're guilty. You're guilty of not being home in time to spend time with your kids. You're guilty because you didn't get enough work done. You feel guilty because you didn't wash the car. You feel guilty because everything.
You ate a donut.
Ate a donut. And this causes you to then look at anybody else who ate a donut and go, ha ha, they ate a donut. Yeah. And now you're judging. And then the person that's with you is thinking, that wasn't very nice. And then you go into retribution of the defensiveness and arguing. And that's when anger comes about. So guilt is truly the responsibility for anger. So when you speak your truth, as long as it is not fueled by anger, this is okay. This helps people. They say, oh, look at this. But if it's a look at look at this. Look at that. I just got knocked out.
That's because somebody just walked in.
Oh, someone just walked in?
Yeah, I was wondering if you're talking about guilt. Well,
God just disappeared. No, it was God. We had God.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Well,
I've never seen him before.
Wow. Whoa.
The dark side brought whoever that was in, the dark side brought him in to go.
Who was that? That was Michelle.
I have no idea.
Somebody with a child just came in. I'm trying to find the 21-day card on guilt because it's really good.
Let me go see what they need real quick. Hold on, you find the card, and we'll edit out this little thing later. Sorry, guys. The hold music.
Okay, I guess it's me. And we'll probably be wrapping up shortly. How many? We're in about, 48 minutes? Marissa's trying to get a hold of it. Here's one that's really interesting. And it really doesn't have anything to do with guilt or anger. It's day 9 from our third set of 21-day cards, and it's entitled, Do I Go Right or Do I Go Left? I think we all think about that. I think back in my life, I go, oh my gosh, if I'd have gone that way instead of this way, how would my life be today? So I think we make those rational decisions. Do we go left? Do we go right? Do we make this decision? Do we make this decision? So anyway, let me read it, see what it says. Your soul, your higher self, lives in so many dimensions and so many physical places around the universes. How many times have you thought, if I had turned left instead of right, where would my life be right now? We make so many decisions with our free will that when we look back, we wish we would have had a genie or someone who could have told us to go right instead of left. Well, your soul experiences both the right and the left turn for you actually exist in parallel universes. You plan to turn right in this life, but you plan to turn left in your parallel life. And it's all for your soul's growth. And actually, Peter responded to that one. So we all like Peter. He's a character. He was a character in the Bible. He was a character in the Rancho book. He's a character every time he comes in. I like to call him a goofball, but he's very smart.
He's very smart, and he is a total goofball.
But he can be funny. He was the one that would keep people laughing. You know, I mean, when the apostles were down after they'd walked 20 miles in a day in the heat, going from one town to the other, and they're tired and they're moody and they're hungry and they're just pissed off at being with 11 or 12 other guys. Peter would be the one that would kind of fill their spirits by being a real goofball. And so he comes into us. Marissa, first saw him, he came in with one of those little beanie caps with the little.
Yeah, he says humor is that of the spirit, and that of the spirit cannot be angered.
So anyway, Peter responded to the, do we go right? Do we go left? And here's what he had to say. For the spirit, the soul does not just experience three-dimensional lives. The spirit is experiencing all dimensions and all worlds and all parallel universes and all ways of possibly doing something. For there is another world where you went left in this one, you went right in the other. And the essence of that, which is your soul, is experiencing that as well. So by excluding your soul, excluding the spirit, excluding the higher self from that, which is your consciousness, you're truly not experiencing life at all. Whereby bringing in energies and knowledge from the higher dimensional you're able to bring in knowledge that you would not have in this one due to the emotional stability of most human beings. So basically, I guess basically what he's saying is, give your will over. When you have to make a decision, just make it very quick. Call it a prayer, call it whatever you want. Make it a conscious effort to connect with your spirit and say, look, I don't know which way to go. You know, give me some kind of a decision. And you know what? Something in your gut will tell you to go ahead and make that left-hand turn. And if you do, just live with it. That's what it is, because that gut feeling, that intuition is the right one, because it's the quiet voice that comes from outside of your own mind.
And now God came back. It was cool. I was like, whoa, good. There he goes. He says,
good.
He says, if anger is something that you deal with, and if you do not believe us when you say this, for when this channel and her husband get into an argument, it is usually because they both feel guilty about something. So they become defensive. But it's not because they realize that they feel guilty about something. They just become defensive, or, oh, look what I did, or, oh, look what I did. Look what I did more. Look what I did more, because both are feeling guilty for not doing enough. And that then, the defensiveness or the one-upping then becomes anger.
It's 5 o'clock.
Oh, God, it scared me.
What?
I don't know.
It never does
that anger then becomes a something that festers in the home. So when you go to make a decision, ask yourself this: which way do I want to go? And show me how I will feel if I go that way. And then ask your spirit which way it wants to go, and ask your spirit how it will feel. If you feel nothing, that means that your spirit will not be able to thrive, because the spirit cannot thrive in the, as you say, the 7 deadly sins. The spirit cannot thrive in the ego. The ego can feel these 7 deadly sins, or these 7 qualities of the ego, but the spirit cannot prosper in this. For this channel's father said to her, you want to make sure to talk to Madison. Don't talk to Madison too much about this stuff, because you want her to fit in at school. This is true. This is very true indeed. For if you are a parent of a child who is going to be going to public school, and you're talking to them about chakras and all of these things that are not very mainstream, your child may begin to feel almost guilt that they don't understand how other people feel. But at the same time, society is changing. And the only thing that stands true in every single human being is that there is a light within all of us. So if you can acknowledge that light within and ask that light to show itself to you as a light bulb and say, if I make this decision, what's my light bulb going to look like? If I make this decision, what's my light bulb going to look like? It's bright. You know what the answer is. You know that it will not be covered in guilt and shame and blame and fear and defensiveness and all of these things that come along. Right. Strange or weird about having spirit or having a light, although spirit is more of a religious term. They cheer about it. We've got spirit. Yes, we do. We've got spirit. How about you? The spirit is the light. The spirit is the light. It's the individualized piece of me that is in each of you. And that is the only piece of you that knows how to dance, that knows how to sing, that knows how to be happy, that knows how to be cheery. For human beings are animals, and human beings can only experience a certain range of emotions. And anger, and it happens to be one of the strongest emotions because it's the adrenaline that comes with it that makes a being feel powerful. But there are beings that when they do not feel powerful, they will say, you're wrong because the Bible here says this. They're using a Bible to make themselves feel powerful. Or I will call the police, or I will take you to court, because they're using something else to feel powerful because they feel that they have no light. They feel they have no light. So it's those that have no light inside that are accusing everybody else in this world of doing the things that they are doing within their own mind. Where this channel received a letter from a woman who said, you are horrible, you are awful, you are the worst person in the entire world. And this channel was so depressed for 4 days straight. And then she wrote back to her. And then the lady wrote back and said, I'm sorry. And it was over. But does that take away the 4 days of feeling like an awful, horrible person because that's what somebody told you you were? So let us right now, just right now, place in front of you in your mind with your eyes closed. If you're not driving, if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, imagine in front of you a basket where a bunch of fruit could be. Imagine that basket in front of you. And then say that basket now represents all of the fruit within me. And is your basket full, or do you have a little grape in there? And now say, the basket of fruit now represents my emotional well-being. Is your fruit alive or is it withered? And what we bring unto each of you now, right now, at this very moment, is a jolt of your original spirit. So placing your right foot over your left, your right hand and your left hand, link them like this. And say, God, please allow my spirit to nurture the fruit within. And just imagine a huge white comet that is coming from me flying down into your fruit basket. And this will bring life and flourished, nourishing fruit into your basket. It will take away anything angry, anything upset, anything sad, anything extra that is not you. And it will bring back a fruitful life to you. And that's all you must do at any time. Now take your left foot and put it over your right. And say, now, God, I give back to you the spirit within, because it's an exchange. And imagine a bright, bright comet of light just above your solar plexus, between your heart and your solar plexus. And imagine like a rainbow shooting out back to me. And this is our link. We are now linked. You have now been attuned to God. You now have, you may imagine, as a rainbow with a pot of gold at the end and a little cloud in your belly or a cloud on each side. You may imagine it any way you would like. But this link between the two of us will bring your original spirit back into you at any time. So if you start to get angry, just imagine, say, God, I need your help. I need your light. And then all you must do is just place your hands like in prayer position like this. God, help me. I place my will in your hands. Thank you. That's all you must say. And you will feel my light coming to you, and you will feel your light saying, thank you. And it will keep going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until all of the anger is gone. Because that's all you need in your life is that light. That's all. We bless you. he literally just spun on his heel and walked away. Oh, wait, hold on. He says, can everybody help me here? I need to get up over here. It's almost like they're like lowered him down.
No, is this God that you're
This
talking
is no,
to?
he came down as Noah.
Oh, it's Noah.
But this is God talking.
Okay, so God's talking through Noah.
No, just now.
And
Yeah,
Noah
after they
Noah
came
needs
in.
to
Yeah.
get back up there again?
No. He is basically, he dropped down into our lowly world to bring the God energy down here, because the God energy couldn't get into Earth because everybody was too angry. Mm-hmm. So I literally see kind of like a King of Hearts or something like that, or like someone like that, like trying to climb back up, and then I see the real, like, not the face of God, but it's just so bright and it's trying to shine down into Earth. The Earth has so much friction. The light's just bouncing off Earth, going away, like the dark side had taken over. And so he used someone to drop down in here to send us light, and he just attuned everybody.
That's why you just talked about the light bulb inside you. You don't want to let it go dim, because we live in a dark world, and I think we all know that. We know that we live in a dark world, but there's so much beauty in the world too. There are beautiful people, there are beautiful trees and oceans and skies, and life can be so good, but at the same time, we know who runs this world. So in order to get through the darkness, you need a flashlight. And what God is saying is, let that flashlight be the light within you, and allow that light to be recharged by doing something very simple every day. Very simple. Just say, God, I freely turn my will over to you, that your will be done. I freely give up my will to you so that your will be done. And then let it go. Go about your day. Do that. Do that with all your heart and soul, and just see how the day plays itself out, because that will lighten and brighten up the bulb within you.
For those of you that are strange about the word God, like this channel, I'm in here going, wait, God,
okay, whatever.
God can be anything. Use the word the light. The original light that ignited my light. The original light that ignited my spirit, my light. I call upon that. And that is the safest channel of light to follow within. The original light that made me, that made my light. The original mind that created my divine mind. The original. And that is when you know you are connected with something that is true, pure, and simple. Because keeping it simple is where it is. So when you begin to get angry, remember, ask yourself, is it because I feel guilty? Is it because I feel that that there's something that I can do to change this? If there is no thing that you can do to change something that the president is doing or that somebody is doing, just know that not to let the anger fester inside of you. You may be upset about the president or the council, or you may be upset about the Senate. You may be upset about these things, but what you're upset about is the mindset of the individuals that approve of that, because you feel that you're here to help them. And if you're not helping them because they're agreeing with this, you're feeling guilty. So you're feeling the need to shout out, so to speak, to help them, but helping them also by bringing light into them so that they are not that woman that was raped that had to have an abortion, or they are not that child that was beaten and had no rights, or they are not whatever. Bringing light is way more important than bringing awareness in these end times. And when we say end times, we mean end times, end of the third dimension. We are just getting ready. January 18th, mark our words. The end of the third dimension is coming, and it's either going to be beautiful or not. So bringing the light into your life is what is going to make it or break it for you. We bless you.
And you won't see any change January 18th. Every change that God makes to this earth is very subtle and very quiet. Mm-hmm. And so it's over time.
No fear. There's no fear. As long as you're connected with your higher self.
So don't put a big mark on the calendar for that day, because it really is not going to make any difference. Awareness is going to grow. Everybody's awareness is going to grow. Oh, and just another thing. Many times when I pray, I'll go, okay, this isn't important enough for me to have to drag Jesus into this one or go all the way to the Father. I usually go to my soul, and I call my soul Big Joe. So I'll go, okay, Big Joe, this is your ball game. Take me where I'm supposed to go today. And that's as good as turning your will over to God.
And then your soul turns right around to God and goes, okay, take care of this.
Yeah. So they work it out. So anyway, okay, we've done our hour.
All righty.
A little more than an hour. It's time to go watch the parade. Christmas
Yeah.
parade.
There's going to be a parade. It's outside. Yeah.
Encinitas. So you may want to come down here, but you'll never find a place to park. So if
no.
you haven't gotten here already, don't bother.
Exactly. Say hello, Joe. I'm reading Diary of Medical. Oh, she's reading the Diary of Medical Intuitive. Great book.
Oh,
awesome.
Good. That's a very good book.
Sound healing. Awesome. Make sure, Jacinta, the person that is running the sound healing, it's very, very important. Say, show me the essence of the energy that they're going to bring to the sound in my hand, and then pull it into your heart. And if it feels don't go, because it's there. You're in them. When I run the meditations, that's why you guys see so much and feel so much, because I'm holding space. You're in my field. You're in my playground. My higher self is, not Marissa. But just when sound healings can be very, very good, or they can turn out very, very funky. So just make sure that the essence of the person holding the sound healing or the meditation or whatever it is, the class, that they're going to be holding a space that's nice and clean and tidy. Otherwise, just, shields up. All right. See you guys later. Bye.
Okay, bye. Bye, everybody.